When we take a look at the Baltimore Ravens defense from this past season, there are quite a few holes, right? We can criticize Zach Orr's scheme. We can nitpick that all we want and break that down, and there is plenty of disasters that were going on with the scheme. But one of the big critiques that I had for the Ravens was the inability to fire off the edge and generate a reliable, consistent, scary pass rush. And no matter really what scheme you necessarily have, which of course it could have been much better than what Zach Orr was dialing up, if you are not able to generate pressure with your front, almost no matter how good your back end is, it's going to be tough. Because if you're allowing these high-level quarterbacks to sit back there and have all day, there's no pressure on them whatsoever. They are just able to sit back there and read the defense and dissect it. They're just going to shred you. Whether you're going man, whether you're going zone, it's really not going to matter if you can't put any pressure on the opposing quarterback. We all understand that. So the Baltimore Ravens bring in a defensive wizard in Jesse Minter to be the head coach who's going to be calling the plays. They also bring in another incredibly high-level defensive mind in Anthony Weaver to be the defensive coordinator, to collaborate with Jesse Minter. And I think that this is the perfect duo because Jesse Minter, the scheme that he runs, the way that he is very versatile and just dials things up alongside with Anthony Weaver, who does an unbelievable job with the front, I think that this is going to spell for the Ravens to have an elite defense once again. Now, a massive signing that the Ravens made was bringing in Jalen Hawkins into the secondary, which I made a video talking a little bit about that I will link down below. But really the focus in this video is going to be the signing of Trey Hendrickson, because what I love about this was the Ravens are typically not a team that's going to spend top dollar or spend big bucks in free agency. It's not exactly how they move. We've seen at times where they will make a move like this, going out there getting Marcus Williams, but really it's the Ravens making small signings, relying on the draft, developing players. But they saw Trey Hendrickson and said, we need him right away, because we have got to have a guy that can be a demon coming off the edge that we can count on to put pressure on opposing quarterbacks and, most importantly as well, close out ball games. Because what have the Ravens, at least under John Harbaugh, what did the Ravens become very, very well known for, unfortunately? We got known for blowing leads. We got known for hitting turtle mode too soon, leaving too much life left into the game and allowing teams any sign of life, man, you got to crush your enemy totally. Or they will come back with any sign of life and they'll take you out. And that's what happened with the Baltimore Ravens way too many times, man. Way too many times. And you go out here and you get a ferocious demon flying off of the edge in Trey Hendrickson, and that is immediately going to change this defense. Immediately. For a number of reasons. One, now you got to deal with an elite pass rusher coming off of the edge, because statistically, Trey Hendrickson is one of the best pass rushers in the league when healthy. That's a fact. That's a fact. And things seem like they're trending in the right direction to have Beaks back into the lineup. So imagine a defensive line that looks like Mike Green coming off of the edge, Beaks and Jones on the interior, and Hendrickson flying off of the other edge. Like, Matabike on the interior is an absolute force, man. And Travis Jones is another guy that is, in my opinion, criminally underrated. Criminally underrated. And all the attention that Hendrickson's going to draw, the attention that Beaks is going to draw, I mean, you're going to be freeing up guys all over the place for very winnable one-on-ones. But then now you have a legit closer coming off of the edge late in the ballgame, a guy that you know, listen, the team, they have to throw the football. It is an obvious passing situation from here on out. That is where Trey Hendrickson is an absolute nightmare. He's a nightmare. And that's something that the Ravens have probably been missing, I'd say, off the top of my head here since like Terrell Suggs. I mean, the Ravens have been kind of funneling in these veteran pass rushers and drafting guys, and it just hasn't really worked out. Right, and then we had Owe, right? We sent him to the Chargers. I was calling him Odaf Ole, and then he goes to the Chargers, and it's Odaf. Oh, wait a minute. He's out here sacking the quarterback, which I think speaks to the volume of Jesse Minter. I know that you could say, well, Owe was playing for a contract and all those kinds of things, but I think that that's part of the Jesse Minter scheme as well, right? So now you pair an elite pass rusher in Jesse Minter's scheme. We saw what Jesse Minter was doing with Khalil Mack in L.A., and now you give him an elite guy in Trey Hendrickson, which was essentially basically the first move, right? They tried to get Max Crosby, all that kind of stuff going on there, right? Whatever went on there, it didn't work out. And then they immediately go out there and get Trey Hendrickson, who can fly off the edge and make a massive impact getting after the quarterback. And this is a big move, getting him away from a division rival in the Cincinnati Bengals. So now with the defensive line that the Ravens have, what we saw a year ago, even though the schemes were whack under Zachary Orr, and I don't think that he was doing a good job whatsoever, when you're not able to generate pressure with your front and you got to send extra guys, right? You got to send your linebackers. You got to bring defensive back blitzes, whatever the case may be. Now you got holes all over the place, right? To where if a quarterback can pick it up, the offensive line can protect, boom, you got gaps everywhere. You got all these matchups all over the place to where if you don't have to send so many pressures and you could just utilize your front because you have the guys that can win one-on-one up front. You got a guy that can blow through a double team off the edge like Trey Hendrickson. That is going to create a massive difference in the way that our defense is able to get after opposing offenses. So yes, we have the wizardry of Minter and Weaver, but then having an elite pass rusher coming off of one edge that's going to attract a ton of attention, right? One of the weaknesses of Trey's game, though, is against the run, but I feel like that's where we're maybe going to see some improvements in his game working with Weaver and Minter. And like I said, Weaver played for the Ravens, has coached for the Ravens before, and even though the Miami Dolphins defense statistically wasn't very good, he had that defense flying, man, week in and week out, playing really, really physical. So I think that he's going to really help revamp the front a little bit here. And obviously having Beaks back, it seems like things are trending in the right direction. That is obviously a massive addition because he's one of the best defensive linemen in the league, in my opinion, without question. So then when you're able to cook with the interior, you got to worry about Beaks. Now you got Hendrickson coming off of the edge. Mike Green, a guy who I think is really going to develop nicely, a guy that I think has all of the potential in the world. Maybe they add somebody else in the draft. Maybe they bring in some other guys. I'm not quite sure right there. The Ravens are not done this offseason so far. But given what we have right now, having Trey Hendrickson flying off of the edge, a guy that can be an elite closer late in the ballgame, a guy that in passing situations is an absolute terror to deal with. A terror to deal with. And we saw him twice a year in Cincinnati, man. This is a guy that when he was with the New Orleans Saints, just madness. Absolute madness. And you can take a look at the Cincinnati defense this past season, right? And Trey Hendrickson, coming off an injury, missed some time for sure. And I know that it's not the end-all, be-all with Trey Hendrickson. Like, I'm not saying that he was the complete Cincinnati defense, but look how bad the Bengals defense was this past year. Look how bad they were. And then when Trey Hendrickson was in the lineup, right, when he was screaming off the edge, things were different. Things were different. So despite the Ravens having a whack scheme under Orr, things not looking particularly good, having to send some of these pressures in order to put that pressure on opposing offenses, having a guy that can come in, be elite coming off of the edge, be a force, be someone that you really have to game plan for, man, because if you leave Hendrickson one-on-one, there are not many tackles that are going to be able to deal with him. There just aren't. There just aren't whatsoever. And then even if you do send that extra attention his way, now you're freeing up one-on-ones. For other guys on the D-line, specifically that other edge rusher opposite of Hendrickson, whoever that might be, I'm assuming that it's possibly going to be Mike Green. I think he has all the potential in the world. And then bringing in Weaver, bringing in a guy like Hendrickson as well. I think that these are all things that are going to help Mike Green and some of these other young pass rushers like Isaac as well help elevate their game a little bit. So the move, bringing in Trey Hendrickson, is a massive one. And what we've seen from Jesse Minter in his schemes is a guy that will send these creative, timely blitzes at times, but a guy that tends to rely on the front quite a bit. And going out here getting an elite pass rusher, right, where kind of the Achilles heel of the Ravens, blowing leads under John Harbaugh, which is a massive reason that he's gone. You bring in a closer, a guy that late in the ballgame, when you have the lead, you got to have it. Obvious passing situations, who can get after the quarterback? Trey Hendrickson in those situations turns into a game wrecker. Like I said, struggles a little bit when it comes to stopping the run, but I think with the scheme, there's going to be ways to kind of mask that and help deal with that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, man. But the Ravens going out and getting Trey Hendrickson, addressing a massive need that we all know, like in the secondary, looking pretty good. The linebacking core pretty solid. The interior pretty good. But to me, it was the edge. It was the edge, having that true guy that you really fear. Because for the past few seasons with the Ravens, it's like, is it really, we got to worry about Beaks, but Outside of that, is there anyone that you're so afraid of coming off of the edge where like, man, I got to, not everyone could have a Myles Garrett. Not everyone, well, we almost could have a Max Crosby, right? But having those guys, it's different when you're preparing for that than, we got to worry about Kyle Van Noy. We got to worry about Mike Green. Like, yeah, there's maybe some worry, but you're not like, man, I'm losing sleep at night as an offensive coordinator trying to figure out, and an offensive line coach, a coordinator, like, how do we deal with this guy? How do we prepare for him? That is now what teams are going to be feeling when they deal with the Ravens. And I feel like this is the first time that we can say in a long time that the Ravens actually have the personnel to put fear in opposing offenses when it comes to pressure coming off of the edge and controlling the game with the defensive line. And this is going to help out the secondary as well, because if you can put a ton of pressure on the quarterback, you can get after them, you don't allow them to have all the time in the world, and they got to get rid of the ball quicker. That helps speeds up the process, speeds up his timing, speeds up his rhythm, and then that can help out the back end as well. So it's a ripple effect, man. Bringing in a player like this, it's not like, we finally have a really good pass rusher. Yeah, that's part of it. But it's going to elevate the rest of the defensive line. It's going to help with matchups. But then also, if you're getting that pressure on the opposing quarterback, that then has a trickle effect to the linebacking core, to the secondary, to where maybe they can take more risks knowing, hey, man, we got Trey Hendrickson. Mike Green's been balling. We got Beaks back in the lineup. These guys are getting a ton of pressure. We're rushing 4. We don't have to send creative blitzes. So we got all these guys. We're dropping, 7 into coverage? Well, now we're plugging up the lanes. Now I can get overly aggressive and we can ball hawk a little bit more, come away with more turnovers. You see what I'm saying? So when you sign a player like Trey Hendrickson, yes, you understand why you're signing him, but there's a ripple effect that adds to the defense. And adding Hawkins on the back end is massive. It's going to allow Hamilton to continue to be that Swiss Army knife that we know Minter is going to have a ton of fun utilizing. I cannot wait to see what this Ravens defense looks like in 2026, because under Jesse Minter, him calling the plays, Weaver being the DC, those two working together, I think the Ravens are easily going to have an elite defense once again. And I think that by the end of the season, we'll be sitting there going, statistically, this will be a top 5 defense without question. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor, please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you are new so you do not miss an upload, man. Signing Trey Hendrickson, absolutely massive.